All right, let's move on. Canelo versus John Ryder. That's on that weekend as well. That's the biggie
The big
over
one.
over in Mexico. Go ahead, Alex. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, pretty disappointing. This is a pay-per-view card here in America, uh, and it's not worth $1. If you ask me, it is what it is. This is what boxing is. This is when you are seen as the face of boxing. Um, you have a big event a couple weeks before, and then you want to charge $70+ for this type of matchup. Well, if you want to, there's passing the torch and there's a torch getting taken. So I think the baton is being passed to Tank. I think this is gonna if Canelo does not fight Benavidez, he is no longer gonna be this pay-per-view attraction. If you ask me, so yeah, I think I'm not upset at the matchup.
Mhm.
Canelo coming off wrist surgery, and John Ryder has quote unquote earned his right.
I was
He's
just
had
gonna
wins
say,
over.
sorry to interrupt you. Just gonna say, I think John Ryder's earned a decent payday, a good shot.
Yeah, starting off from being robbed. A lot of people think I really want to rewatch that fight because I've never seen it. Him
Yeah,
against Colin Smith.
I didn't see it either. So we'll cover it one time on
Yeah, same
this.
here.
But yeah, so Colin got the Canelo shot after that, but
Hmm.
he's beaten Daniel Jacobs. He got the TKO victory over Zach Parker, who was in position to also get out the to get a Canelo shot. So here we are. He has to travel to Mexico, and I expect it to be a decent fight. I'm just picking Canelo by
Hmm.
decision, and I don't think it's going to be a great fight. One that we're going to remember. It's going to be one in passing. I think Ryder's going to have a good account of himself, but yeah, I don't think. I think Canelo's on the decline, and this is going to be the fight to really show that.
Okay,
Interesting.
I think John Ryder will do better than most of the other Brits that Canelo's pulverized in the not too recent past. I think I think he will stop him, but I think it'll be later on in the fight. Maybe round 8 onwards. Maybe. Um, Josh, give us your thoughts on this and a prediction as well.
Yeah, one thing I'm certainly in agreement with is the whole pay per view thing. I think it's going to be a huge event there in Mexico, though, Guadalajara or wherever it is taking place. It is going to be huge. I think there's going to be a heavy crowd presence, and it's probably going to be a super big fight atmosphere where it's actually taking place. So that's kudos to Mexico, or kudos to Canelo. This is his first time fighting in Mexico since 2011. Great for pulling it up there. To think about that, that was like over a decade ago. So he hasn't fought there. And
And
when
that's
we initially started to hear of Canelo is where it all started, where he was doing his thing there in Mexico and making waves. So I'd imagine it's going to be a big event. That being said, I do expect Canelo to get the victory at some point, likely going to be a stoppage, I would say, in what should be a pretty interesting fight up until the point that it lasts. The pay per view undercard isn't too bad by comparison to some others we've seen. For instance, the Tank Ryan undercard, I thought it had the makings of what could be pretty decent, but looking at it when it actually happened, I didn't think it was a very good undercard. At least what we got out of those fights that took place. With this one, it might be pretty decent, but certainly when you take into account it is pay per view, and you think about how that relays in other sports, you'd expect to see it being stacked with some of the top level fights. But I know that it becomes a money situation, and then hey, you're paying the main event, and then you kind of just fill out the rest in some sense. But certainly, this should be interesting. Steve Sparks going to be on there. He's pretty. He's shown that he's pretty game, and him against Valenzuela, that should be a pretty decent fight actually. Gvozdyk versus Bolotniks is interesting. Of course, Gvozdyk coming back, or at least I think he's already had a fight. Maybe fits his comeback.
yeah.
Bolotniks, he was game against Buatsi when they actually fought, but certainly uh, yeah, at the price points with the pay-per-views and all, that can be a turnoff when we're seeing so many and they don't deliver that sort of expectation or that pizzazz or what you think. At least I'd much rather it be a situation like Mike Tyson back in the day where he was he was bringing such an atmosphere and he was coming in there for pure destruction than to and sometimes his fights ended early, but he just had that vibe and aura about him. I'd much rather be that situation than one where if it doesn't fully deliver in that main event space, then I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the pay per view because that is the marquee fight. Now, I'm not saying that this one won't. It should end up being a pretty decent fight, I would say. But I'd expect Canelo to give us, his A game and really make a statement. If Benavidez or Morrell or someone like that were to be next, or even if he's, I guess, going to try and take on Dimitri Bivol again. But time will surely tell. I know Alex mentioned that he feels Canelo's on the slide. We'll see in this fight. I still think Canelo is on top of his game, top dog. But certainly, if he doesn't fight David Benavidez, then yeah, that takes away a lot. And he has been one in the past to fight the fights that weren't to his benefit, i.e., fighting a Lara who wasn't going to be stylistically the person that he would look as good against, etc. We've seen him do that in the past, but Benavidez is the fight that we're clamoring for, and that's one of the best fights in boxing. We know Morrell is there and coming up. I don't want to see Morrell versus Benavidez before we get Canelo versus Benavidez. I think Morrell should jump into the mix once that fight actually happens. So hopefully that is the case, pending the outcome of this actual contest with Ryder.